Whether we like it or not, the world's in a bad state right now, and I'm sure I don't really need to explain why. But despite all that's happened, people still somehow manage to show a bit of compassion, even to animals. To celebrate that, have another animal-related video on us. This time it's about people saving animals once more. From someone risking his life for a distressed goose to what's possibly the most humane act done in time of war, here are 10 amazing people who saved animals' lives. Number 10. Goose on ice. A man passing by a reservoir in Baofeng, central China's Henan province, has rescued a goose trapped on ice at the risk of falling into the freezing water by crawling near the stuck animal using 2 tires and a rope. When asked why he did it, the rescuer just said that every life is worth living. The rescuer, surnamed Huo, was hanging out with some friends near the reservoir when they heard a goose calling for help. Huo then sprang into action. He equipped himself with the 2 car tires and the rope and carefully crawled near the goose. As he approached, the ice nearly cracked, and the goose fell into the water, which allowed it to escape. Number 9. Squirrel CPR. In this footage taken by the body cam of Brooklyn Park police officers in Minneapolis, Minnesota, the police officers approached a man who left his car running on the side of the road. As they approached the man, they saw that he was trying to revive what looked to be a dead squirrel. When questioned by the police, the man said that he thought he hit the squirrel with his car, but managed to swerve enough to avoid squishing the tiny thing. But he must have hit it enough to render it dead or unconscious, so he picked up the tiny guy and started doing some sort of squirrel CPR. After a few minutes of what I could only describe as random prodding, the tiny squirrel sprang back to life and went on its merry way. And I'm sure that the motorist was really happy he didn't kill a squirrel. Number 8. Rescuing a drowning bear. Bears always follow their noses, for good and for bad. When they're hungry, they can go to extremes just to get some food. And although they don't look it, they are pretty smart animals as well. So smart in fact that they've learned to associate humans with food, and in some cases have learned to search residential areas for a tasty, tasty morsel. So one day, this 400-pound bear decided to follow his nose and wound up in a residential area in Alligator Point, Florida. There he began to rummage through garbage cans, much to the fear of the residents. So wildlife authorities were called to deal with the bear, but what looked to be a routine bag-and-grab operation turned into a risky water rescue. The authorities decided to sedate the bear via a tranq dart, as they should since they're not dealing with a kitten here. But after it was hit by the dart, the bear went straight into the ocean and got into the water. As he began to swim, the drugs kicked in, and the bear became drowsy and started to drown. Upon seeing this, biologist Adam Warwick disregarded his own safety, jumped into the water, and grabbed the bear, saving its life. The bear went on to make a full recovery and was brought back to its forest home, and I'm sure that man had a pretty interesting story to tell his friends afterward. Number 7. A different kind of fighter. While taking a walk on the beach one fine Sunday morning, the Irish mixed martial artist noticed a crowd of concerned people. He moved closer and saw the cause of the commotion, a stranded baby dolphin. A man was trying to push the poor animal back into the water, but the strong waves kept pushing the dolphin back to the beach. Taking over for the exhausted man, Pendra then sprang into action. Up against both ocean currents and rocky terrain, the fighter did his best to get the beach dolphin back into the water. It was certainly a struggle, but Pendra was able to get the job done in about an hour, and that baby dolphin, I'm sure, was very grateful. Number 6. A human chain. What would you do if you saw a drowning dog? Would you risk your life and the lives of your friends to undergo such a dangerous task? Well, these friends would, in a heartbeat even. A group of friends happened to be passing by the Cyan Reservoir in Kazakhstan when they noticed a stray dog trying desperately to keep its head above water. They didn't want to see it come to any harm, so one of them scrambled down to the edge of the reservoir and managed to grab hold of the dog. He tried to push him up the sides, but it was far too steep for either of them to get back up. So the friends realized that they needed to work together to complete the rescue, and this is what they did. They formed a human chain, each of them inching further down until they could grab hold of the man at the bottom, who in turn held the dog by the scruff of its neck. They then hoisted both of them to safety. The dog is believed to have been a stray roaming the city of Almaty in the southeast of the country. Eyewitness Mariana Kadriva shot the video on her smartphone and uploaded it online, and it has since gone viral. Number 5. For sheep's sake. Faye Russell sprang into action when a neighbor of hers called to say some sheep and lambs were at risk during torrential rains. Like any good neighbor, she wanted to help, but unlike no other neighbor in the world, she was prepared to risk her life for it. The 26-year-old farmer put a long rope around her waist, handed the other end to the neighbor, and jumped into the freezing water, swimming while holding lambs under her arms. According to her, risking one's life for the sake of animals is second nature to any farmer. She also added that she didn't have a death wish or anything, as she trusted her neighbors to pull her to safety using the safety rope if the situation got too dicey. The farm, located in Derbyshire, was on a floodplain, thus prone to flash floods. It was raining for a couple of days, but no one expected for the water to rise that quickly. This then covered the entire pasture under 7 feet of fast-moving water. Number 4. On thin ice. You're probably asking the same question as I did when I first saw this clip. How did he get out in open Siberian water on a small little ice floe? Well, like the number of licks it takes to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop, the world may never know. However, one thing we do know for sure, he was definitely gonna need a bit of help here. Luckily for the stranded dog, though, a Russian fishing vessel spotted him in the waters near Port Magadan in Siberia. The dog barked once at the vessel, and the Russians talked briefly. They knew if they didn't rescue this little guy sooner than later, his chances of survival would be next to zero. Without regard for his own life, one of the fishermen jumped straight into the frigid Siberian waters. In the dead of winter, waters can reach temperatures as low as -11 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's -23.9 degrees Celsius for the rest of the world. The fact that the fisherman was able to even function in the water was impressive in and of itself. Of course, asking the dog to dive into the icy water was out of the question, so the fisherman pushed the ice floe closer to the ship. The people on said ship then pulled a rope attached to the swimmer. Once the fisherman reached the ladder, a harness was then attached to the dog and was finally pulled aboard. Number 3. Far from home. The massive tsunami that ravaged Japan in 2011 didn't only affect the lives of millions of humans, but thousands of animals found themselves in peril as well. In this case, though, one of those was a young finless porpoise that was washed up 2 kilometers inland from the sea, ending up in a rice field. Fortunately, Ryotera and his group were in the devastated area around Sendai rescuing cats and dogs when they received a phone call that was so unbelievable that it took them a while to comprehend what was actually happening. Honestly, I don't blame them. It's not every day that you get a call asking you to rescue a dolphin swimming around in a rice field. They made a stretch from car parts and a futon mattress they found in the tsunami wreckage, and tried to catch the porpoise with a net. When that didn't work, Tyra waded into the field in his rubber boots and picked it up in his arms. With local aquariums damaged by the disaster, the volunteers decided to cover the animal in wet towels, put it in their car, and return it to the sea themselves. Now it's time for today's best pick. Today's best pick is just what it looks like, a basket full of kittens. While something like that is positively adorable, it's nothing out of the ordinary. That is until you realize that the man carrying them is chest deep in water. Where could this heartwarming act of kindness have happened, though? Find out next with number 2, a basket full of kittens. Back in 2011, non-stop rains caused massive flooding in Cuttack City, the second largest city in the state of Odisha in India. That's in the east coast of the country near Bangladesh, just in case you were wondering. Anyways, if you're even slightly familiar with the amount of rain the monsoon season brings to this part of the world, then you'll know that basically a majority of the country is in danger of flooding for a few months every year. Anyways, during any of these floods, lives will always be in danger, both human and animal. And although that sounds extremely tragic, these are also the times when people are at their best in showing compassion. These amazing photos were taken by Biswarajan Raut, a local from Cuttack. During the flood, he saw this man wading into chest-deep water carrying a basket full of stray kittens. This selfless act of kindness is magnified tenfold when you see the kittens swimming patiently behind the man, clearly showing appreciation for the help. Before we move on, do me a favor. My analytics show that only about 15% of you watching are actually subscribed. Come on guys, what's up with that? Can you guys please hit the subscribe button? You guys watch my videos every day anyway, so you might as well subscribe and keep up to date with every video we put out. Number 1. Kindness in war. War is the utmost test of our humanity. These are times when people do some of the most inhumane acts imaginable against their fellow man, whether they want to or not. It's almost impossible to imagine people showing a random act of kindness during these times of conflict, but sometimes they do. Each and every one of those individuals is a ray of light in an otherwise dark part of our history. Case in point is this photo of US soldiers giving an injured baby goat a drink of water during one of the breaks in battle. While the act itself is extremely simple, we don't even know whether the goats survived for long after this photo was taken. But given the backdrop of the photo and the stress of thinking that they might be dead any minute, this kind act may have just been the only kind act these people have done during the war. Which animal rescue story touched your heart the most? Let us know down below in the comments below. And also make sure to check out the channel's other amazing content. As always, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Later, everybody.